We thought it was going to be called the iPhone 15 Ultra, but nonetheless, what Apple have brought forward with the iPhone 15 Pro Max is looking solid. A new 3nm A17 Pro chipset, titanium design, a new 5x zoom lens, and finally a USB-C port, meaning the official death of the Lightning port. That being said, are these new additions dead on arrival compared to the Galaxy S23 Ultra, especially considering there's only a £50 difference between the two at the same storage? Max versus Ultra. Let's see which one takes it. Things may look familiar from the outside when it comes to the iPhone 15 Pro Max and even the S23 Ultra, as both have cemented their design identity, but it's all in the details when it comes to the materials being used, how the phones are shaped for better in-hand feel, and of course, a top-tier premium feel. Let's start with the new kid on the block, the iPhone 15 Pro Max, and Apple means business when it comes to creating what they are calling the most premium iPhone ever to date, and potentially even going as far as the most premium flagship phone ever made with the use of a grade 5 titanium alloy for the frame. There are 4 colors available: natural, blue, white, and black titanium, and I've got to say, the blue and natural have my name all over them. The big deal with titanium is the strength to weight ratio, making these the lightest Pro models ever made, while increasing the overall strength of the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Backed with the subtle curve with the contour edges, this might finally be the most comfortable handling Pro Max phone yet from Apple. And if that's the case, I can finally enjoy a large size iPhone again. I've praised Apple for having some of the best matte finish to its glass panels at the back of their Pro phones, but I've always wanted them to match it with a brush finish for the metal frame. And now they have on the iPhone 15 Pro. On top of having thinner bezels for the front display, using a PVD coating for better protection for the titanium frame, and an infused aluminium internal subframe for better cooling and weight distribution, the new action button that replaces the iconic silent switch, this adds up to be the most changes Apple have done to the iPhone design in a long while. Now, if we compare it to the king of the big phones, the Galaxy S23 Ultra, Samsung took a similar approach to the resurrection of the Galaxy Note from the Galaxy S22 Ultra by bringing flatter edges to the right and left side of the frame, while still keeping a curved contour to the back of the phone that made it even better to handle considering the 6.8-inch form factor of the phone. It does use a glossy finish for what Samsung call armor aluminium, and the back uses the latest Victus 2 glass with a clean matte finish. One thing I will say is that Samsung does a much better job of the colors available, with the standard ones coming in phantom black, green, lavender, and cream, with an additional 4 online exclusive colors in graphite, lime, sky blue, and red, making that a total of 8 more exciting colors to choose from. At this stage, it's a hard one to pick which one is better and more premium, and my gut provisionally wants me to give it to the iPhone 15 Pro Max, but I have to admit, Samsung have been in the game of perfecting the experience of large phones, that it might still hold the crown as the most premium overall large flagship. By principle, the display experience on the iPhone 15 Pro Max is basically the same as the iPhone 14 Pro Max, with a large flat display 6.7-inch OLED panel, 120Hz ProMotion high refresh rate with LTPO tech, which can refresh down to 1 Hz for the always-on display, high resolution, and a super peak brightness level at 2000 nits, and this time with thinner bezels. Unless there's anything else, this seems to be it for the already great display experience of the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Now, as much as I rate Apple for sticking to a functionally better flat display, I will say the overall display experience on the S23 Ultra is better thanks to the 6.8-inch dynamic OLED display, 120Hz LTPO high refresh rate, high resolution at 1440p, 1750 nits for peak brightness, and the magical S Pen support for the display thanks to the built-in S Pen in the frame of the phone. Yes, curved displays are functionally not as good as flat displays, but Samsung struck a nice balance with the S23 Ultra while keeping the visual swagger that comes with a curved display. For this one, I think Samsung just about takes it overall. Since the beginning of Feb this year, when the S23 Ultra was announced, we've praised Samsung for getting rid of Exynos and allowing Snapdragon to shine all the way with the custom 8 Gen 2 mobile platform built for Galaxy chipset. And to say it's been a difference maker is a legit understatement to how good the S23 Ultra has been when it comes to overall performance and especially efficiency until now. In comes the world's first 3nm chipset in a mobile device, or in fact, any consumer computing device, with the new A17 Pro chip. Yep, gone is the bionic name, and comes the Pro with 19 billion transistors, an improved 6-core CPU performance, next generation GPU performance with things like hardware-based ray tracing, and the thing I'm most excited for is the efficiency improvements when it comes to things like battery life. Yes, we know the 8 Gen 3 from Snapdragon and MediaTek's new chipsets are around the corner, which are most likely going to use a 3nm chipset process as well. But for now, Apple are the first and will probably carry on being the fastest of the bunch. Apple aren't really ones to quote how much RAM or the type of RAM being used in their phones, but we do get a higher starting base storage of 256 gigabytes for the 15 Pro Max to match the S23 Ultra. Fingers crossed, Apple has also increased the RAM to 8 gigabytes, which would make a huge difference for running more apps at once without restarting. Provisionally, I have to give the performance and specs to the iPhone 15 Pro Max, but of course, more testing is needed once we get full hands-on. Now, the rumored camera upgrades on the 15 Pro Max is what made us initially think Apple were finally going to call their large Pro phone the Ultra. Nonetheless, the upgrades here still look very good, with Apple even stretching as far as saying you'll get a camera experience that simulates having 5 different cameras. Now, Apple marketing aside, the obvious new improvement is the 12 megapixel 5x optical zoom with an f2.8 aperture using a periscope tetra prism design with OIS. Now, the main camera is still a 48 megapixel sensor, which is larger and more advanced, with a 12 megapixel ultra wide with improved macro mode. What's good about the 48 megapixel sensor is that Apple is actually allowing you to use it in so many more ways, which is actually surprising when it comes to how Apple usually is. You can now shoot 48 megapixel JPEG photos in the HEV format, and there is a new 24 megapixel shooter mode with pixel binning as well. Not sure how Apple are doing this, but they are stating that their new photonic engine allows 48 megapixel images in 3 different focal lengths at 24mm, 28 and 35mm on the main 48 megapixel sensor. Very interested to try this out and see the results, no doubt. Portrait mode also looks to be improved with automatic portrait capture without even needing to switch to portrait mode, and the ability to change the blur position after the shot, just like you can do in their video portrait mode for cinematic video. Now, it doesn't stop there, because thanks to the high-speed USB-C port, finally, the iPhone 15 Pro Max is able to record video to an external SSD thanks to the fast 10 gigabits per second speeds, which enables 4K 60fps ProRes video recording. Only very few professional cameras even allow you to record externally via USB-C to an SSD, so seeing this on an iPhone is kind of crazy. On top of the crazy, you have log recording in ProRes for even better dynamic range and color grading when recording videos, and you can record 3D spatial videos to use on the upcoming Apple Vision Pro headset. All this is well and good, but I actually don't think Samsung has too much to worry about just yet, because the quad camera system on the S23 Ultra is using not just 1 but 2 dedicated zoom lenses at 3x and 10x, both at 10 megapixels with f2.4 and f4.9 respectively. Samsung is also using a massive 200 megapixel main sensor, which allows 200 megapixels, 50MP and 12 megapixel photo modes for JPEGs, and the ability to shoot usable 8K video at 30fps with full OIS and no crop, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide that also has improved macro mode. Samsung also tends to have a more flexible capture experience for videos, with the ability to pause recording and continue on the same clip, and also flip to the selfie while recording on the same clip. Now, the only way to settle which camera is the best will be with an ultimate camera comparison, which I will be doing here, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. This initial discussion comparison doesn't touch on absolutely everything we need to know, especially on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, with things still waiting to be discovered like the battery capacity and size, charging speeds, RAM size, and more, compared to what we already know on the S23 Ultra with a 5000 mAh battery, 45 watt wired charging, and reverse wireless charging, and more. Without Apple mentioning anything to do with improved battery life on the iPhone 15 Pro Max, we have to hold fire and see what the complete experience is like on the 15 Pro Max compared to the S23 Ultra. Has Apple done enough to make you consider switching, or is Samsung holding the crown in this situation? Especially with the rumored S23 Ultra looking to be released this time in January, Apple's victory lap might be short-lived, especially with how flexible the software experience is on Android, amplified by Samsung's One UI.